We are talking to the man who's designed the all-new Santro. We are talking to SangYup Lee, the Vice President of Hyundai Styling. Mr. Lee, thanks so much for talking to us. So, new baby is born. Exciting time. Congratulations. But I just want to ask you, you've got a big legacy behind this product. So, was that a bit of a challenge? Because you obviously can't start with a clean sheet of paper. You have to use some of the brand attributes the earlier cars stood for.
Absolutely. Something iconic as a designer is always challenging, but always at the honor. You always need to understand, study what legacy we had, and develop it to the future. So it's actually quite a inspiring work the designer had to do.
Right, but looking at it, it's not as tall boy as the earlier car. Obviously, it's a little bit more better proportion. The earlier car had pretty awkward proportions, to be honest. It was especially the height to track ratio. Is this car something that, obviously you couldn't follow those same proportions, but at the same time you wanted the roominess the earlier car stood for?
The original Santro, obviously, it really is a family car. It has a practicality and a space, and because of that, the roof is high and relatively narrow. It makes a very unique character for the vehicle. We just want to carry that DNA, not literally take into the new one. Just take the DNA, get the essence of DNA, apply to the new car. This new Santro is a new the family, not the family 20 years ago.
And just looking at certain styling elements, let's take the grille. To be honest, in the earlier Santro also, that grille, that toothy grille was quite prominent, maybe even controversial. Even over here, your grille, to be honest, looks disproportionately large for such a small car. I mean, is that deliberate? Because is it a bit in your face? What's the kind of styling rationale for that?
We make the grille deliberately the big and actually low and wide. That is more better explanation. Simply we make it bigger because to fulfill the requirement here in the market, because it's actually the temperature is a lot warmer than the other countries.
So it's a cooling requirement. It's a functional requirement.
Exactly. So we make the grille bigger, and on the top of it, the big grille, it has a very strong the presence. So why not actually putting the fog lamp next to it? Maybe even make it even wider. So the face is very, very strong. You can instantly recognize it's a Hyundai Santro, new Santro coming from long distance.
Right. And obviously, looking at the high bonnet, you've had to take in account the future pedestrian crash requirements and all that. So it's future-proof for future crash requirements.
Absolutely. And this is a very important part. It's a family car, so which means we have to take care of family. The safety and is a very, very important part of the vehicle. The pedestrian protection also being part of it.
Looking at the sides of the car,
Yes.
There's a lot going on. For such a small car, you've got a fair amount of creases,
Right.
you've got a wavy, let's say window line. Again, is that deliberate to give a little bit more styling into it, or you didn't think for, let's say, a budget car buyer, sometimes it's better to keep it simple?
What we found is the biggest purchase reason for customer here in India on the car is basically exterior styling.
Right.
And as you see the car, we call a boomerang lines.
Right.
The front and rear, they're really adding a lot of character to the vehicle from the side. Also at the same time, they emphasize the fender shape. It added a lot more sporty character.
Right.
I really like this wavy belt line, as you see, and it actually drops to the rear end of it.
Right.
So it's not just the styling only, it's about driven by functionality.
Right. So you get better visibility as well.
Absolutely, from the backseat passengers.
I want to maybe touch upon one car. I don't know whether you were involved with it, but the Hyundai Eon.
Yes.
Didn't really do too well in India. View is that the styling was a little too over the top or too extrovert, too swoopy. Whereas with this one, you had a nice balance of flowing lines, but there's also a bit of robustness. Did you learn anything from the Hyundai Eon as well? Because that's at the budget end of the market, and clearly the sense we got, the styling was a bit too much for someone who's a bit conservative.
We have to evolve and move as a customer trend and a taste that develops as well. So it's very important. When we did the Eon, at the time it was actually we believe was the right product for the right segment, and we definitely have a lessons learned. And that lessons learned, we just want to make sure we capture into new Santro.
So what were the lessons learned? I mean, just give me one example.
It's actually lessons learned is obviously pure styling point of view, that Eon is more the refined, more solid vehicle, which is a little bit of a contradictory of the taste of the Indian market, to being a little bit more extravagant,
Right.
and there's a lot of characters.
So you think it was a bit ahead of its time?
Yeah, I think so. And there is actually certainly response to that. You'll find a lot around Santro.
You've built this car on a Grand i10 platform, from what I understand, a modified platform. So, I mean, were there some sort of hard points you had to take from that car, just from a cost point of view, so you don't do too much extra tooling and development?
Cost balance is very, very important, particularly a car like this. But if you take a look at the car around, like the interior, the two tones, and the vent, and the elephant face IPE, and with the tail lamp, two-piece bumpers, and a
Right.
grille, there are a lot of premium touch to it.
Right.
So one of the things is we always ask to our designer, let's not make entry level
Cheap.
looks cheap.
Right.
Entry level has to be look more premium.
The whole cost versus quality balance, and
Right.
where to use the knife where the customer can't see, is that the most difficult part? What do you leave out rather than what you put in?
Let me put it this way. We have a simple logic. Instead of focus on company business case or focus on design, our focus is always customer.
So can you give me some really
Yeah.
top highlights? Would it be interior cabin quality, plastic feel?
Interior cabin quality, the haptic touches. So even though it's a hard plastic, but there's a
The tactile
soft
touch.
absolutely. And we spent quite a lot of money on the vent, on the
Right.
side vent, with two-tone finishes, with the ergonomic touches. You don't find this in an entry-level vehicle, but for us it's very important because vent, the fresh air is so important for customer here in India. The big vent, the functional vent, we want to celebrate that as a design feature.
Right.
Same thing that relates to the vent on the back of it. This is something that we must have. Yeah?
Right.
Even it doesn't matter if it's entry level. It doesn't matter it's actually the low cost option. We have to have this strong vent for the back seat because it's about taking care of the back seat customers. It's about the right balance all the way around the vehicle, and then you find a lot of special features around the car. But at the same time, some area we have to balance ourselves. One of the example is the door handle, the flush door handle, not a pull type. The flush door handle obviously is a cheaper solution, but I wouldn't say it's cheap because it's not old school flush door. When you actually grab it and pull it, you have
Feel solid.
feel solid, almost
I
like a
noticed that.
pull door. So it's actually in a way, as a designer, developing inexpensive engineering solution to make a more premium touch out of it.
The most difficult challenge while designing its car, was it the packaging? Was it cost reduction, cost balance? What would you say was your biggest challenge, especially when you're coming from Bentley to something so low cost as this?
Actually, the people's car is a lot more difficult to design than exotic car, in my personal point of view, because you have to consider a lot. You have to consider the usability and the space, the balance of the cost, and the feeling the customer gets. There's so many things that you have to think. At the same time, design has to be iconic. This is why it's a challenging. This is why the car like this with the tall boy and the narrow and the small wheels is always challenge as a designer, but at the same time, because of the challenge, make ourselves special in
Right,
this sense.
and absolutely last question, I'm going to probe you on this. Life cycle measures. Can we see a lot of action in this car going forward?
I believe so.
Really?
Yeah.
So we can see evolutions, and it'll be more than plastic and bumpers and headlights.
There's so many cars already.
I think you answered my question. You will do some sheet metal change as well as part of the life cycle management, isn't it?
Stay tuned for that.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.